Hey, it's Ben. Another Drambo video, Drambo by Beep Street. Still in beta. This video is going to look at the different processors that are currently in existence. And it sounds like the plan is to sort of keep expanding this app once it's released. That's what the developer Beep Street has communicated both in private and then publicly to the AudioBus forums. So, I'll need something to play around with for all of these processors. Processors don't create any noise on their own. They're, not all of these are effects, but essentially they change the signal that's incoming in some way. So I'm just going to go from top to bottom for the most part. Comb filters, I don't know the exact, science or, what's actually going on. But I think this is basically like a very quick delay. And the cutoff kind of correlates to delay time, which I think you can hear, so you get feedback. And the feedback can either be like forward, and I don't know what negative feedback is, but if you crank up the cutoff, it's almost like a tuned delay, like a very fast tuned delay. And that makes a little bit more sense when you turn the cutoff, which is sort of like the delay time, up really high. And you can hear the tonal difference now in feedback versus like positive feedback to negative feedback. And what's really fun is to play with a cutoff on to modulate it with the key tracking or the pitch, incoming pitch. So that's really easy to do. And you can, do all sorts of fun stuff with the comb filter. So the regular filters, haven't really talked about them much at all. I'll just throw in a quick something to stop the oscillator from running. So you can modulate cutoff, obviously, and as well as resonance. Give it some sustain. Don't know where that little because the tuning is set all the way down. So on a normal oscillator, it would sound more like this. It's a nice filter. So it has, all the regular filter types. So a high pass, and it's got band pass, but then it has a notch filter, and like a really low resonance low pass, so more just like a shelf, then like a high resonance low pass, and then these all pass filters, haven't really figured out a use for them. I know you can do something with like phasing in your speakers, and I think something's also sort of supposed to happen with your when you introduce distortion, so we could play around with that. Let's add in add a shaper, I guess. You can definitely hear something. It's not the frequencies, but there's a tonal change once you're going through. It's not as apparent when you don't have any distortion happening. So plenty of different kinds of analog filters, analog sounding filters. Modal resonator, you've looked at this before, but this is like the sort of like different physical models. So I'll use a impulse with that. I'm not going to try and speak to what each of these parameters does. Decay is pretty obvious. Changes the decay. This is polyphonic, of course. And then, at the very least, you may want to set this to track pitch. You've got different models. They're not labeled necessarily, but you can certainly hear differences in their sound. And then, so you can modulate pitch. material, I don't know, it's more apparent for different models, different parameter settings that you have. Bass, it's almost like how like heavy or sturdy the material is that's resonating, and then position, I think is sort of supposed to be like either where like you'd have a pickup installed on this material, this object, or where the microphone is, or maybe where you're striking the object, where the resonation is occurring from. So it needs a signal input, but you can do a lot of cool kind of fun things with that. And then what else do we have? I guess I should just leave like a sound source in here. Last one is like a peaking EQ. So this is really, you can build your own EQ. And to hear an idea of what that would sound like, I'll just do another basic poly. Just wanted to make sure I'm recording. So you can set the frequency, and then the boost, and then the I guess resonance, or how narrow your boost range is. So it can either be really high, just do like a big low end boost. And you could set these to run in like, for any of these effects, anything in Drambo, you could have them running in series where each EQ feeds into each other, or you could have them running in, I guess I have these on the wrong side of the mixer, have them running in parallel where they all receive the same sound source and you have different ranges being boosted. And you can cut as well with the peaking EQ. So I'll leave this simple little synth patch. So moving on to like different distortions, you've got a bit reducer, and that's modulatable. You can hear what that sounds like. Sounds good. Most of the effects are polyphonic, so you can place them anywhere in the chain, and it's going to be like an individual processing per voice. I guess to demonstrate that, get rid of the LFO, and then I'm going to modulate bit reduction with key tracking. So actually higher voices are going to be and you'll know it's polyphonic. I believe this is the system. Anything that's polyphonic just shows as normal. If it's a monophonic module, if it can only process like one voice, or just like raw signal of many voices, audio signal, it'll have a little one next to it. So the decimator. That sounds really good. And then you've got like a regular distortion. You can set the bias and the amount of distortion. A couple different algorithms. Maybe we'll put that before the filter. That could sound better. And then you've even got like wave folding, a soft and a hard algorithm. But then you also have a graphic shaper, and this basically lets you set your own curve. And you can't really see anything. Okay, now there it's moving, so you can kind of see the wave going through on the shaper, which is kind of cool. And then depending on the curve that you set, it's going to change. And That's kind of cool. One of the beta testers, Max, he's at least the first person to talk about this, and then he's been having a bunch of fun with it. You can run basically like an LFO through the shaper, and now you can hear it. You can see it's moving. It's like scoping through, and if we turn that into like a high frequency, you can kind of draw your own waveform. So that's really fun. And right now it's set to a sine wave, but we might want it as like a saw. So it's going to cycle through. Anyways, you can make your own like complex waveforms. That's cool. And then you can change like the scale of those waveforms. I'm going to turn it down for you. A little bit lower. A little bit higher. And the scale, I think that's basically just like the size of the curve that you're going through. So the signal is going to be like affected either more or less. And that can be bipolar or not bipolar. And you'll notice that, we were kind of like hearing the LFO, so that's cool. Going back to using my mouse. So in terms of, I guess these are more like modulation effects for the most part. Chorus sounds really good. I'll bring back the just like basic probably that I've got. Well, I'll play around with something else. A slightly less basic. A sad poly. This one sounds a little bit, it's just more interesting, that's all. Got some different oscillators, some modulation going, and then this would sound even better with a nice chorus on top of it. So not every module has parameters that are can be modulated, but you can of course set P-locks on these, so it can run in stereo or in like a mono signal. So you'll notice like right now it's at the end of my chain, which is 7 voices right now, so it's polyphonic. If I put this before any device or any module that is polyphonic, it's kind of going to mess up how the voices work. So you'll hear what I'm talking about. I'm going to set this to 3 voices. Okay. I can actually hear those 3 voices together, I think. And then now I'm tapping. So it is only processing 1 of 3 voices. So every 3rd voice that triggers, you'll hear it. And then there's a long release on this, so. And they all kind of trigger at once. But that's just how the whole system within the app has been developed. It doesn't really hold you back at all, I don't think. But that's something to be aware of. So the chorus sounds really good. Of course, you got a compressor. I'll open just a project. Ooh, baby. So this has a compressor on it. It's a pretty nice compressor, actually. There was like an earlier version. This just sounds a little bit better. So you can set your threshold and the ratio. You can also do RMS, which I can't remember what it stands for. I know it's sort of like the average signal in a specific time. Probably hear that a little bit better. You can bypass it if you need to. So none of these parameters are modulatable. It's okay. Turn on look ahead. Just smooths it out a little bit. And then it does have a sidechain input. So play around with that for a second. Pause it. That's my kick. Okay, so I'm going to set it to get sidechain from the kick. And I think you can hear that the kick is a little bit more pronounced because it's on the side chain. And if you wanted to, you could throw something in after the compressor. So we've got the like full signal going through the compressor, and then maybe I just want to hear that kick again. There you are. Okay, so that's the compressor. It's useful. And you've got a couple different delays, so I'll just do the first one. Do it like an FM operator. Okay, so delay effects is like just a simple delay. You can control feedback, and you've got like a couple different time settings, and you can also just do like manual time, dry, wet, obviously, but then you can also do the delay rack, which you can insert other modules into. So if you wanted to do like, you could throw a pitch shifter in there, which you can modulate. You do like a real slow modulation. And throwing effects in here, it has the like ability to sort of like get kind of crazy. But it can be really fun. And then you can also just sort of use this as like a looper, a very short time looper. And it's got ping pong too. But then you also have it's just delay. There's no feedback, so this isn't like a delay effect in the normal sense. But it will delay your signal exactly as much as you're using. And this is polyphonic, which might be important. The delay time can be modulated. I've been having fun doing like, it actually sounds good with the FM. You know, you can process any signal. So we could use, we can delay a gate signal, and I'll add a couple other delays. So our first FM, I just want to get its gate from like the normal place. But then the second one, I'm going to tell it to get like the first delay, and then my other operator. And there's no delay, so they all sound at the same time. I'll combine them so you can actually hear it. Okay, so they're still sounding at the same time, but then I can push up the delay. And that sounds even more interesting if I like mess with the ratio. I think that almost sounds like a little music box sort of thing. But you can process just regular signal as well, and it can sometimes have cool results. Frequency shifter. Why not? I don't know exactly what a frequency shifter does, but I know that it's a lot of fun to play around with. And then, you get a phaser, which sounds pretty nice. And a reverb. So the other effects, or the other processors rather, are you just have like a regular amp input. So if you want to modulate the volume, you can use the amp input or the amp module. And then the other ones are just different VCAs, basically. So you have the amp, just like a regular attack decay. You can turn sustain on or off. You have a VCA with a hold setting. You can hold up to 1 second and then decay. You have your regular ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release. And then you also have a VCA with modulatable attack, decay, and amount. And you can, of course, turn sustain on. I don't really need to show those all individually. So there might be some more processors here in the future. There probably will be, but that's all there is right now.